Planning your Saturday night can be a bit of a bitch.
Saturday night is the loneliest night in the week.
Well, it doesn't have to be. Load up Toxic Radio every Saturday night for the Heavy Metal Happy Hour with the one and only Fishman.
I know that, dude.
There will be interviews, ticket giveaways, a little bit of banter with Toxic Mike, and of course great metal from the 80s all the way through today. Starts at 7 p.m., runs until Fish says it's over.
Everyone get out!
Catch it only on Toxic Radio. Don't play it safe. Play it toxic. Okay, we all know shit's getting pretty weird recently.
Real wrath of God type stuff. Fire and brimstone coming down from the skies. Rivers and seas boiling.
40 years of darkness, earthquakes, volcanoes.
The dead rising from the grave. Human sacrifice, dogs and cats living together. Mass hysteria.
Well, maybe not all that bad, but people are stuck at home, we're disinfecting everything in sight, and there's no damn toilet paper.
None of this makes sense.
But here's one thing you can count on. Toxic Radio will be here, rocking on with great music and as many of your favorite shows as possible, like the Heavy Metal Happy Hour and Supreme's Funky Contradiction. And of course, nothing can stop the hair metal weekends. So keep it right here with Toxic Radio, and we'll see you through to the other side of this mess. In the meantime, this is the whole crew at Toxic Radio saying, stay safe, stay healthy, and keep rocking. This is one time it's okay to play it safe, but never with your music. Always play your music toxic.
Welcome to Paradelphia Radio. I am Rick Pruitt. We are back here in the recently renovated Toxic Radio Studios, and I am here with my crew on the way. Well, actually, we have one who is waiting in the wings here. She's chomping at the bit at her house down in Salem County, and Dougie Doug is apparently stuck in traffic on Route 295. So.
Yeah, do we want to bring over Jenna B real fast and show her face?
Jenna B is hanging in there, so why don't we bring Jen in? Oh, yeah, there it is.
There's the face.
There it is.
Oh, wait, is she unmuted? Wait. I got it. There we go.
We have her muted purposely.
I muted her.
Now she's on an echo.
Let me fix it. What have we tested this already? What happened?
Listen, I am pregnant. I can't drink wine, so get it together. And they're like, there's nothing else.
I'm kind of digging this. Sounds like she's falling down a well.
The more the better.
It's the ghost of Jenna B.
It's the ghost of Jenna B. I've got to fix this. Give me a moment. Oh, I see what I'm doing. There we go.
All right, so while Mike is working on Jen's audio, I will fill you guys in on what we're doing this week. So, and again, I want to apologize. Last week was kind of a weird situation. I promoted the show for like 3 days ahead of time, and then, as is the case, when you have 65 dogs and cats, one of our dogs got sick, and we had to rush her to the vet, and it just threw everything out of whack on Thursday. Of course, on Thursday night.
On Thursday.
So, yeah, Doug is here now.
Yeah, you had thought that I learned my lesson 2 weeks ago, but they're doing construction right on like exit 18 on 295.
Yeah.
And it gets held up, and I'm running in here. Now I'm out of breath.
Oh, my God.
Take a breather, man.
I'm out of shape here, so okay.
All right, so like I was saying, last week was supposed to be the show that we're going to do tonight, but you guys can wait a week.
Yeah, you know.
So it is an interesting show, though, because I looked into this book a few weeks ago called The Secret Life of Plants. It was one of those things where it was just kind of one of those suggestions you get on like Amazon and whatnot, where they say, "Hey, you might be interested in this book," and you get like 50 of them,
Right. Yeah.
and like 49 of them I could give a shit about. But this one, I figured, let me look at it. It seems kind of interesting. And when I started reading this, I got caught up in this book because it was basically it blows your mind. It will literally change the way you look at the entire world around you. Without getting into it right this very second, we'll get into a lot of the different aspects of what's in the book. But basically, the gist of this book is that we are surrounded by plant life that is actually not just alive. I know everyone knows that plants are alive, but sentient, thinking, reasoning.
They're going to take over the planet.
And to a certain extent, and this is, it sounds crazy, but there's studies that have been done in this book that prove that they literally can read intentions.
And it's kind of crazy you think about that, because you know how what they think about, look, making last-minute adjustments because I'm late here. So, but anyway, but like it's crazy because like you hear things too where they say if you people will sing to plants and people will do things like that, and it like helps them grow and things like that.
That was the
too,
beginning
so.
of this whole the book. Basically,
Right.
It's a book called is called The Secret Life of Plants by a guy named Peter Thompson, or two guys named Peter Tompkins and Christopher Bird. And basically the situation is that they talked at the beginning. It's a long book. There's a lot that goes into it, but the beginning of this book is focused on a guy named Cleve Baxter.
Mm-hmm.
All right, who lived from 1924 to 2013. So 90 years, roughly
something
old.
like that, right?
But back in his heyday, back in the 1960s, he was 39, 40-ish year old, and he was working as a interrogation specialist.
Okay.
So he basically was an expert on lie detectors. And to the point where he actually founded his own school called the Baxter School of Lie Detection.
Mm.
So this was his bread and butter. This was his life's work, was to work on lie detection machines to assist the police and authorities with doing this type of work.
Right.
But he was also curious. He was a scientific type, and as you do when you are that kind of person, he kind of just went rogue and kind of just tried to do his own little side experiments from time to time involving the equipment that he had.
Right.
And one of the earlier experiments that he read about, and you mentioned talking to your plants and whatnot.
Right.
So what he read about earlier was this study done years before by an Indian scientist by the name of Jagadish Chandra Bose.
Mm.
And he was the one who found that by playing music to your plants, it causes the plants to grow.
Wow.
So he actually, through trial and error, scientifically proved that playing music to your plants causes a significant difference in their growth.
So it's like not only does music do something psychologically to a person, but obviously to, in a sense, a plant.
Right.
Wow.
So with that as his basis, and his kind of interest was piqued once that happened. He didn't have music per se, but he had this lie detection equipment. So one day he figured, kind of on a whim, based on this, the reading he had done, he was going to hook up the electrodes from a lie detection machine to his plant. It was a Dracania plant that he had in his office.
Okay.
Just to see what would happen.
Yeah.
Just kind of like, as you do when you're the inquisitive type.
That sounds like something you'd think of sitting on a toilet. Like, wait a minute, let me try that.
What if I tried to do a lie detection on my plant?
Right.
So what he found was very interesting. He basically, what he did to start with,
Mike's dancing plant.
Yeah, anyone's listening to this, Mike is putting dancing plants on our video. What he wanted to do was to see, first off, if the plant reacted when you poured water on the plant. So he wanted to see if that had any effect, changed the reading on his equipment, and it actually did. So that was kind of interesting to start off with. He wasn't. I don't think he was expecting any kind of response.
Right.
But he got a response where the plant actually had an electronic. That's what lie detection.
It's like an impulse, like
an electronic impulse based on the water.
Because they feed, in general, like lie detectors
Right.
depend on nerves and all that too,
So he tried this on a few different plants. There was a dragon plant that was out in his yard. He tried the same thing on, and he found that regardless of the type of plant, they all reacted the same way.
Wow, so it didn't matter anything, right?
They had a spike whenever he would actively pour water on the plant.
It's like feeding a thirsty animal or something, It's
right. So afterwards, he kind of went a little deeper with this, and he said, "Okay, what if I start to do something to actually physically affect the plant?"
Right.
In other words, he was going to come at it and like clip off a leaf
or something. Right.
So what he found was that I'm sorry. The first thing he was going to do was burn it. He was going to burn the plant.
Let's go to the most intense and just light it on fire.
So the first thing he was going to do was to burn the plant. But what he wanted to do was to see if there was an effect if he just came at it with the fire.
Mm-hmm.
So he was not actually, first off, intending to burn the plant. He was just going to hold the fire nearby to see if it had any kind of an effect.
Right, kind of like, no, stop.
It did not have an effect.
Oh, really?
It didn't register at all, which makes sense.
Okay, yeah.
But then he decided, okay, now I'm going to actually go through with this and burn this plant. And as he approached the plant this time, then there was an effect.
Maybe,
then there was a registration.
Right. It's almost as if with us, like or let's say anything with this quote-unquote brain or whatever the thing, it's almost like your sense to know what fire can do if you're not used to it. That's what kind of gives you that scare, knowing what it's coming. But until it hits you and you see that it's hurting you,
right.
Kind of get what I'm saying? Like with a plant, when you start to feel that heat, thinking, oh, wait, this isn't good. You don't have that
But it wasn't even when he felt the heat.
Oh,
he hadn't even set it on fire yet.
Okay, so it was when. Okay.
So basically, the idea was that he originally, the first time he did it, he was not intending to actually
do it. But
burn the plant.
But it thought his intentions.
Right.
Okay.
When it didn't register the first time, the second time he said, "Okay, now I want to see what happens when I actually burn it." And before he actually got a chance to touch fire to the plant,
that's when
it registered a response when he just intended to do it.
Like it read its mind. Okay,
right.
I'm with you. I thought, okay, I'm with you now. So wow, it's like reading his mind as to what he wanted. Okay,
right.
That's intense. Wow.
And so afterward, for a while afterward, he found that the plant, because he kept the plant hooked up to this machine.
Right.
And he found that the plant afterward for a while, when he would leave the room, it would ramp down. It's excitement.
It calmed down. Right.
When he would enter the room, it would ramp back up again.
Wow.
As if the plant was recognizing that this is the person who was coming at me with fire.
So it got like scared, so to speak. Wow, that is crazy. That like you said, it gives you a whole just something like that. It gives you his whole sense of plants, like it's mind reading,
And these tests aren't just one person. He his book goes into it a little bit later, but he had his colleagues. He published in journals. Like he had people replicate this all over the world.
Wow.
And they all got the same
response. That is like, I mean, like you said, you got to think plants out of everything. They're the longest living thing. They got to figure it out. We just take them for granted.
I say we go outside right now, go to some trees, and start bullying them.
Well, I was going to say, I thought you were going to say
start bullying some trees.
I thought Mike was going to say, let's just start going and setting fires or something like that.
Let's go set a fire.
Let's go start a forest fire here in Jersey.
Not? Let's see if they cry. It's just.
So what do you think, Jen? You've been quiet the whole time here. Are you still on mute?
No, she froze. She was actually just moving a second ago, and she looks like right as you asked her what she thought about it, she froze.
Like she's thinking.
It really did.
It looks like she's thinking of the answer.
She froze as soon as you asked. That's weird. That she was already ripe, waiting for you to ask her something.
Maybe the plants.
The plants. I was just going to say, the plants.
The plants
they thought of what she was going to say.
Right. So anyway, he had 25 different types of plants that the collaborators he had used. So it wasn't just the one type. They used there was a bunch of people used a bunch of different type of plants and all came up with the same result. So now they kind of started to think about the logic behind this.
Okay,
because people and animals have sensory input. They have eyes, ears, nose, taste.
Mm-hmm.
Plants don't have any of this. So because they don't have those things, he got the idea that these plants have to have some type of communication technique that is above and beyond the five senses.
Right. Oh yeah.
Right. So that was what his result was of this study. Was he, aside from the results he got with the test itself,
Yeah.
the conclusion was that these plants were somehow intuitive to a degree that human beings are not.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Or at least most human beings
Right.
are
I mean,
not.
and it all goes. I know I say it all the time because it's like the one main thing, especially with my expertise with communicating and experimenting and things like that with the ghost world. But it all falls down to what I think is energy. It's all energy. No matter how you look at it, energy can be done in so many different ways. And again, like you said, it kind of, when you really get into deep thinking, it goes into like what we say all the time. Like you said with us and animals, we have the brain. I mean, we work, our senses is all because of what our brain detects. So it's kind of like it goes into where plants are a part of, in a sense, this world. So again, it goes into that aspect. Right. Are we pawns of some sort? Right. And like we were just put here on a place that plants already existed in a sense. I mean, I know that goes into deep thinking, so to speak, but it just, it kind of gives you this whole, thought process and everything. I see Jen is back too, so.
Yeah, is Jen there? There
she
is.
Freeze again. It's like.
I'm here now. I don't know what happened. It just all of a sudden you guys weren't talking. And I
neither were you. We were joking on your frozenness.
So we thought you turned into a tree. Or a plant or something.
I feel like a tree or a plant these days. Just chilling.
So what is your opinion on all this, Jen? What do you think?
Well, you were saying how like plants don't have what did you say? Something about plants don't like have sensory or something?
They don't have eyes, ears, nose, right?
Right, but what about the plants that you put a fly in, the Venus flytraps?
Well, it goes off a feeling.
They still don't have an eyes, ears,
I mean,
and nose.
I feel like they still have a sense of. I mean, I get what you're saying. I just still feel like.
I think that they taste. I think that they
delicious.
They taste.
Yep.
They taste good sometimes, I guess, if you put dressing on lettuce.
This reminds me when I was in 5th grade. I did this. No, I was in 6th or 7th. I don't remember. I was in some grade, and I did the science fair, and I was completely BS'd. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. So I planted this plant, and
that
it
was
grew
it.
a little. So then I started to give it laundry detergent instead of water.
What? Why?
I think I remember that actually. Like didn't you do a bunch of different stuff? Wasn't it not just laundry detergent? I think you did a couple different things to see how.
So you were
it grew.
basically the Joseph Mengele of plants.
You were killing plants. So they all, every time Jenna goes outside, all the trees and everything are trying to push it away.
Good Lord.
They're like, she's going to give us laundry detergent.
They're like, there she is.
Yeah.
It's her. Hide.
Yeah.
I literally got laundry detergent. I gave it laundry detergent, and and I ended up getting like honorable mention and got to go to the county science fair because of it.
What kind of science fair was this?
How can we kill the environment?
Yeah.
What happens if you put diesel fuel in the ground? Let's see what happens.
I BS the whole thing.
So further in this study, they decide to take it up a notch. And what he did was he started looking at the results if you took a leaf off of the original plant and hooked up the electrodes just to that leaf.
Okay,
that's been separated from the main plant.
Right.
And what he found was he got the same results.
As in, like you're tearing a limb off,
right,
so to speak.
Right. So that would be the equivalent of like somebody loses an arm
and it grows back.
Not that it grows back.
Right.
But that your arm feels what your body feels, or somehow sees
I
what
get
you
what
see,
you're
you know
saying,
what I'm
except in this case, I mean, you would kind of think of to where the fact it's almost like, what is it, like crabs or some seafood. Like if they lose a limb, it's okay. It may hurt them. We don't know. But it grows back to a sense. But yet, if it's dead and it's a dead leaf, obviously it kind of loses its feeling. So it's a different kind of story, you know?
And so they started to play around with these different experiments.
Right.
And they started to put these plants together with other plants and see how they reacted when they put other plants nearby. And they found there was minimal reaction with other plants. But once they introduced either human beings or anything living, they used dogs, cats, any kind of animal into the equation.
So it wasn't just humans. That's cool, yeah.
It was like the plants recognized that the animal was more dangerous than the plant, because when they saw the animal in the room or sensed the animal in the room, then the spike went up. But when it was just the plant there, it went back down again.
I wonder if maybe it could detect kind of the way of thinking. I mean, when you think of like humans and animals, like I don't know if control is the word to say.
Well, it's
but
assuming
more,
a threat,
right? Because to where we as human beings we have more of a knowledge of what we're doing in a sense. I'm not saying animals don't, but
right?
If you kind of get where I'm saying, I don't want to say control because every species is different. But to where a human can, in a sense, better control what it can be done, lighting something on fire, so to speak, versus an animal.
Right.
Things like that kind of example.
Now, one other thing he did find was that at times these plants, when there was inherent danger, when these people were going to, the scientists were going to harm the plant in some way,
right?
The plant would have all kinds of energetic reaction up to a certain point, and then it would drop down to nothing.
Would it be like instantaneous or like a slow?
No, it immediately dropped
okay,
down.
Gotcha.
And what they surmised by this was that these plants, in a way, were playing possum.
Okay.
In other words, the plant doesn't know that it's not projecting itself as a sentient being.
Right.
Like, let's assume the plant is in fact a sentient being.
Okay.
If you think about it, you ever see the fainting goats?
Yeah. Oh God, I want one so bad.
When you yell or scream at a goat, it like drops and faints.
And it turns like a statue. I want one bad. Absolutely.
That is what this theory is, that the plant basically is acting as the fainting goat.
Right, because a fainting goat, that's its nervous system of like, oh crap, like it doesn't realize, like you said, it doesn't realize
it's like
it's
it
doing
shuts down.
that. It's just like its nervous system just freezes up.
So the plant was doing the same thing with the electrical system. It was ramping up while the danger was approaching.
Right.
But at some point it hit like a critical mass and just dropped down to nothing, as if it wasn't there, as if it was playing possum, as if somehow doing that would save it from the inherent danger coming.
Okay, I see
what
you're saying. I'm with you. Yep.
That's why the goats do it. They
exactly.
drop and they assume that they're playing dead, basically.
Right. They figure that's their sense of protection.
Right.
And yeah.
But he found the plants are doing the same thing. So it's it's interesting and all this, like we're talking about a plant. So the thought process that goes into doing this, I mean, it's one thing it's crazy to even think that animals like goats and other animals like that would do it. But to have a plant do it is just bizarre.
Right. I sit there and I wonder, too, with looking at, the way that obviously how the environment is and how all the pollution nowadays and things like that. And even when you look over in California, these forest fires, I mean, obviously it would – what kind of reaction would you get as like a whole, like a mass type situation where there's – devastation to these plants and trees or whatever the case is.
Right.
What if someone were to, in a sense, be able to run a test during a situation like that?
I'm sorry, Jenna. Yes, we can hear you.
Well, no one was answered.
Well, I heard we could hear and I saw your hand up.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me come in here. I apologize for interrupting the conversation. I mute you sometimes because we can hear you doing other things. So sometimes I mute you. It was my fault. I didn't see you trying to talk. I didn't hear the guys go to you. So I didn't. That was my bad. I muted you.
No, well, go ahead,
I
Jenna.
was just fine. Anyway, going back to the fainting goats, that's not true. Fainting goats, when they faint, they actually that's a seizure. They're having a seizure.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
I thought it was just like a sensory thing that they just froze up their nerve. I didn't
No,
realize
they
it's
don't
seizure.
play. No, they're actually having a seizure.
See, Doug, now don't you feel like an asshole? You're going to give a goat a seizure?
No, because I've always said, since I've known fainting goats existed, I've always said, like, you want one just so if you're having a bad day, you just run outside and yell and
Scream
just
at a
watch,
goat?
because they're just so funny. I mean, just go on YouTube and search fainting goat. Just watch it on that. Like, they're just hilarious. Yeah, but in that case, you're causing them to go into, like, a mental breakdown.
Right.
But, but animal rights groups coming after me.
So for years now, we've heard. This is an interesting aspect of all this. We've heard the vegans talking about how they're they want to save animal life and eat plant life.
Right, but
because it's not saving animal life.
Thinking about this.
So now this is an interesting aspect to this, because if this is true, and it seems to be based on all these studies, you're not avoiding harming a sentient being by eating plant life.
Right.
But an interesting aspect of the study here, and and it almost sounds a little too convenient to me,
Mm-hmm.
but supposedly this was the result. This was the data that was collected. But when plants have that spike in electrical output, when there's danger inherent in the room or in the area, the other thing that happens, or another thing that happens with the plants, is that they have or release a thin film of toxic chemical.
Okay.
Most times it's not. It doesn't matter because it's not
Not
enough
lethal.
to be harmful,
Right. Not
to
enough
anybody.
to like, kill. Right.
Right, but that's a part of the reason why they tell you to wash your vegetables and fruits when
Sure.
you eat before you eat
They
them.
don't think about the fact they think first thing people think is, oh, you're just getting rid of the bacteria and
Right.
stuff like that off of it.
So they decided to do a little experiment with this aspect of the study.
Okay.
And given the fact that they had this chemical that was released when the anxiety was ramped up and danger was inherent,
Mm-hmm.
what they were realizing was that the danger that they were putting the plants in was all aggressive and mindless danger, meaning they were coming at it with fire and scissors and whatever in the name of science, yes, but there was no altruistic reason behind it.
I see.
It wasn't a good reason. It was just let's burn the shit out of this plant because we want to find out the
Because
results
we want
of
to
this
see what
test.
happens. Right. It's like sacrificing a rodent to some.
So
yeah.
what they did was they did also do that on some of the plants, but the other control portion of the experiment was that they had a group of plants where they basically set them aside
Right.
and they used them solely for food.
Okay.
And they talked to the plants. And it's going to sound crazy. I know I sound crazy when I'm saying this, but they talked to the plants and explained to the plants
What they.
intended to use them for.
Interesting. Wow.
And what they found was that this chemical was not released from those plants.
When they were explained that they're going to feed to help.
Right. So it's almost like the plant
knows its intention.
needs to know the intention of why it is being killed, why it is being eaten, why it is being destroyed. And if it's a good intention, if it is an altruistic intention,
right,
then the plant will essentially sacrifice itself to that end.
It's almost like it knows its intention to so to speak, to the food chain.
Right.
You know, I mean, of course, then you get somebody listening to the show that's hardcore, like, oh my God, now I got to go talk to my grass every time I get ready to go cut it. Like, I'm just doing it so you don't look a mess,
that,
you know. But
that grass smell, that's the chemical
that's
being released.
That's the chemical. And you know what? I forget.
That's your grass screaming.
There actually just something tells me just recently, in fact, that I read somewhere that, or someone told me that grass smell, and I forget where it was, but it wasn't that long ago, that smell that you smell is the grass giving, it's like giving a warning off to all the other grass, like, hey, watch it, we're being killed. And I forget where, but it wasn't that long ago, and it's so crazy we're having this conversation because it wasn't that long ago that I heard that. It's more like a warning sign, you know, like to other places or plants.
So one of the other things they wanted to check was, now that they had all this information, these plants apparently were thinking, they were sentient, they could essentially read someone's intention.
Right.
They could think complex thoughts to the point where they would give themselves up, so to speak, for a good cause. Okay, all these things are data that's been collected. Crazy as that sounds. So they wanted to check about the memory of the plant. They wanted to see if these plants, if this was true, if these plants had some kind of a memory. So what they did was they got 2 plants, put them in a room, and they have 6 people. 6 people who were in a separate room.
Okay.
Those 6 people drew randomly out of a hat. And one of those people, known only to that person, drew the card, let's say, or the whatever it was they picked, saying that they were the person who was going to go in and harm one of the plants.
Okay, right.
So they sent all 6 people into the room.
And one by one.
One by one.
Right.
And the one whose job it was to harm the plant took one of the plants and destroyed it.
Okay.
Cut it up, stomped it, destroyed it.
Right.
They then marched, one by one, marched the people back through the room again and had that second plant hooked up to the machines.
Okay.
5 of those people, that plant did not respond.
But that one
one person who harmed that other plant
went up.
Went right through the roof.
You know what? And Jenna, I don't know. You might be able to help me out because I feel like it's from when we were younger. I cannot remember what movie it was, but I remember there was a movie, and all I know was one we watched all the time when we were younger. But there was something, it had to do with Native Americans. And when you were talking about the, speaking to the plant, giving the intention, and it didn't give off
It was
the toxin.
Three Ninjas.
That's right. Remember? All right.
The third one.
There was a Three Ninjas movie. We used to watch it all the time. And in what would you say was the third one? And there was
an Indian reservation.
They were on an Indian reservation, and there was this old woman, and she was talking, and one of the kids walked up to her and said, "Why are you speaking to the plants?" And she says, "I'm letting them know that the reason I'm cutting off their flowers is to make medicines and things like that."
Right.
And they were asking, "Can they hear you?" And she was kind of like saying, "It's not that they can hear me. It's that they know what my intention is."
Right.
And with you now explaining this conversation, it kind of makes sense that with that being Native, it's almost like if Native Americans, they know that, it just goes to show you more in depth of how they are more in tune with the with the earth and things like that. And it just popped in my head, and I couldn't remember what movie that was.
Yeah.
But where it came into my head is that she was explaining that it doesn't matter that it's not that they can hear me. It's they know what I'm doing.
Right.
So, and with you saying that, that's amazing. That just goes to show you.
So they decided to ramp up this test again. Now that they've determined all these things about this plant, it has, it's sentient. It can basically read your intentions.
Right.
It has a memory. It can remember different things. So now they wanted to find out if the plant actually would react to something else other than another plant being harmed.
Okay.
So what they did was they set up an experiment to test empathy within the plant.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah.
And they set up an experiment where they took brine shrimp. All right, you know what brine shrimp
I know
are?
what
Like
brine
the real
shrimp
small
is.
little
Those
shrimp.
small, tiny ones.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
They took brine shrimp in another room, not
Okay.
even in the same room as the plant, in another room in the building.
Okay.
And they put the brine shrimp into boiling water and
All right.
killed them.
Gotcha.
They had the
shrimp.
They
I know. I'm saying that. We're talking about plants.
they had the plant hooked up the entire time to the machines.
Okay.
And they found that once those shrimp went into that water, the electricity in the plant spiked.
Wow.
As if it understood the death of another creature in another room, not even within
not even in the same
range.
thing. But then again, like you said, is it like just read? Is it the fact it's sensing the death of another creature, or is it because it's reading the mind of the person doing it, saying that's the intention? You get what I mean? Like you were saying that.
Well, it could be either.
It could be either. You're right. Like so, it's kind of like, well, which one is it? Is it the fact that it's just sensing that, this other being is causing some kind of death to it, or is it sensing? So that's interesting. Wow. So it doesn't matter if it's planned or not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Cleve Baxter, this guy who started all this experimentation, he tried to get this work published here in the U.S. in the late 60s.
Okay.
And he was basically laughed out of the room.
Of course.
Now
we're so stubborn as Americans.
Right. Well, it's one of those things where he had his data, but nobody wanted to hear it because it was just such a far out, insane premise.
Right.
That it wasn't like anything else. So, the stuff we talk about every day.
Exactly.
The
like,
ghosts and Bigfoot and UFOs and all that stuff.
Oh, get out of here, but
for somebody who's not a believer, who's a skeptic, there'll never be enough proof.
Exactly. You're just not open-minded enough to realize, but everything's, again, it's all connected. In this case, it even shows you down as far as the plants, to the grass that you step on every single day. Everything's...
So what he wound up eventually doing was actually going to, of all places, the Soviet Union.
Wow.
And he lectured in the Soviet Union on something called primary perception, which basically means the ability of plants being able to be aware and receptive to stimuli taken against it or other creatures in the area. He called that, the term for that he called primary perception.
Okay.
And eventually he moved on from the plants and he started testing other things like yogurt, eggs, human sperm.
So actual
things like that.
Right, different types of things, right. Yeah.
Right. So, so you basically had a situation where you have what is it? There's a term for this, and I'm missing the term right now, but
Ew.
Polyu.
The term is ooh.
Oh. I was for a second there I was serious. Polyu. Anyway. I'm
I'll
going to go
try-
around telling people, polyu.
I'm
look
wrong.
it up."
Panpsychism.
Okay.
Panpsychism, which is the theory that basically the mind is a fundamental feature of the world that exists in the universe.
Okay. Wow.
So basically, everything is sentient, and that was his ultimate takeaway from all this. He
Right.
tested the plants, but then he tested all these other things, and literally every single thing is sentient.
Right.
If you have a chair made of wood, that wood is still sentient.
It's still, yeah.
In some manner. So, it kind of puts the world in a whole different perspective because you can't pick and choose now.
Right.
You can't say, well, this is alive and this isn't. Because
Right.
it's all alive.
Because you have to think, even man-made things, like you just said, like with a wooden chair. I mean, no matter how you look at it, everything that's made around us, even man-made things, it's made essentially. There's something natural that's mixed in with it. You know what I mean? Like even when you look at chemicals and things like that, everything's got to be made from something natural. Things aren't just popping up in the middle of nothing. So whether it's a little bit or a lot, it's all. Yeah,
I mean,
it's crazy to think about it, but it's the truth.
Yeah, and it really does. It you look around and you're just like, wow, you have an effect on literally everything.
Yep.
And
There's not anything we step on, sit on, move around. Yeah.
And it kind of goes to the idea like people are more powerful than they realize that they are.
Right.
And I don't mean necessarily powerful for power's sake, but just influential.
Sure.
I guess is the better word. Influential.
Right. Mm-hmm.
You influence your own self and other people around you, but you also influence the world around you.
Absolutely.
The animals you encounter, like every single thing, your intention even. It doesn't even have to be your action, it's just your intention.
Right.
Is influential.
And what's interesting too is the fact that we've talked about many times where right off the bat the first thing they think about when they look at, for example, living like other species living on another planet. Right off the bat, the first thing people think of as living is, there's a brain, they can think, and things like that. But there could be something that's just what we know of life, quote unquote, to be. When you look at something like we're talking about tonight with plants, I mean, obviously when you think of a plant, there's no brain or anything like that. We had to learn all of this because someone decided to do experimentation.
Right.
But without that experimentation, you wouldn't have realized that it has these capabilities. So, again, I mean, let's say they find a plant on another planet, so to speak, Let's say the fact is the first thing they're going to think, there's what? If there's plant life, that means there's water, that means there's life. Well, that plant life right there could be just even though it does not have a brain.
Yeah.
And like you says, it's sensory, or it senses like we do. Right. We are just going off of what we know, but you got to look beyond that. And this is a prime example right here of how to look at that. So it's
the NASA or whoever it is out there now searching, that's always cracked me up.
Yeah.
They narrow that definition of life to the extent that if it's not exactly something
like us,
if it isn't something that could exist on Earth,
right?
You're not looking for it.
Exactly. If it's not walking around doing things, thinking things like that, but it's line of thinking again. I never would have thought a plant. I mean, yeah, you think of all plants are living things, but what's the basic thought of a plant? The fact, like before thinking of this, is okay, it's a living thing. It grows. It needs sunlight, food, all that, but whatever. It's just there.
Right.
But it's got these sensory.
Didn't they find water on Mars?
You're cutting out there, Jen. What'd you say?
Didn't they find water on Mars?
Yeah.
Yeah, they found. Yeah,
Doesn't that mean that there's life or something like that?
No, water is like what they're saying is the fact that if there is water present, then there is potential to be life, because life, you have to have water for there to be life. So it's kind of like a big in a sense,
something you have to have.
You have to have in order to have life. So that's what, again, like Rick said, it's always been something that cracked me up. If there wasn't water, like if they didn't find any source of water, then they would never think of there being life. But again, how do you know that? That's just based off of what we have and based off of us and things like that. Like, you need water in a sense to live, but
Well,
who's to say that?
And the other thing you can think of here, like when you do your ghost hunting stuff, there's a thing called the stone tape theory.
Exactly.
Where places, physical places and buildings and rocks and materials hold the essence of people that had lived there before and can sometimes project that out, and that's the idea behind the stone tape theory.
Exactly.
Well, this kind of lends itself to that because if this material, these bricks and these stones and these timbers and the plant life and the dirt and everything there is actually physically sentient and alive,
right?
Then and has a memory, like it's been proven in this test.
Absolutely.
Then that memory would then lend itself to that theory.
And it's so crazy because again, I just thought, and I want to look this up to see if it's ever thought of. One of the things you always hear that again, stone tape theory, limestone, bricks, things like that, giving off where that energy gets trapped and it can replay itself. Again, like stone tape or cassette tape,
right? And
you're in the right place at the right time. Well, now sitting here thinking about this, and it just goes in my head, well, how do we know that doesn't occur with plant life? No one's ever thought of that.
Yeah.
If plant life has this capability of having memory, and if someone is experiencing something that is in a residual
sense. If there's
sense,
a tree there that's been there for 200 years or whatever.
If you're in the middle of the woods, like, for example, you have a lot of things. There's been cases I've read up on where you get the stone tape theory. Maybe there'd be like an old road in the middle of these woods or something, and people have experienced headlights, and maybe they're just getting the sense of an old highway or something like that, and they're just seeing that. Well, there's a lot of trees and plants there. How do you know that stone or that concrete is doing it?
Yeah.
What if it is the plants? It's almost like an old projector.
Right.
Much like that. So this just gives a whole nother aspect on things. Something definitely I like to think about, especially with my Pine Barrens experiment I want to start next year.
And
so you know what I mean? It's like
and you think about things like poltergeists.
Yeah.
Right. And poltergeists have typically been associated with typically female adolescents going through puberty, that kind of thing.
Their energy and aura
where
is
their
really
energy
strong.
is projecting out and causing the physical items in a house to move or smash around or break or whatever.
Right.
So if there's that kind of energy that can be put out by people, then what's to say that same energy couldn't manifest itself in different ways from different life forces?
Exactly. Yeah. That it's just
plants, animals, trees.
Yeah. This totally
rocks.
opens my mind up to so much more because, again, and I mean, as far as all the research I've done over the years, you never look at plants as being something like that. But if you go off of this research this person's giving, and again, I feel like it's because we take plant life, I mean, grass, things like that, you just take it for granted because as far as you know, everywhere you go, even if it's a tree in the middle of a concrete slab, you know what I mean? You just don't pay attention to it. So this just opens up. If plants have that capability, who's to say that that's not a reason for, I'm not saying just for haunting, but just going off of what I research.
Right.
Who's to say that's not a good reason for it? So, especially if you take something like this, like, again, this is just bringing up all kinds of ideas. You take, like, a plant and you put it in an area or a place that's said to be haunted, hooking up different things like this. Well, if activity spikes, could this plant maybe, you know what I mean? Not saying that it understands what death versus a spirit and living is.
Right. Well,
but
it's interesting because of course, once this data and these scientific tests were put out there, the very first thing they wanted to use this for was a military application.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So
can we tell if a bomb's coming or not?
Right. Well, that's what they're doing.
Right.
What they're saying is what they wanted to do was to hook up. Let's say you're in a war, and you don't want to put soldiers in danger.
Right.
So why not hook electrodes up to plants in the area and then draw your forces back and
see
wait
who's coming
and wait to see when those plants spike.
Then it's like,
because
okay,
when they spike, that usually is going to mean there's danger inherent in the area, which is usually people.
Right. Or but in this case too, they've had that same reaction if like animals. So like if you go and do that, you get a swarm of buffalo coming or something like that, you're going to think you got a whole infantry coming when all it is just wildlife.
Right.
But still,
it's not perfected, but I'm saying the idea
aspect
behind it is to use this this data as a way to detect human intervention or human presence.
Right. Yeah, like I said, I mean, this actually just brings up all kinds of neat things. Like, again, again, looking at it with the ghost research I do, like figuring out, is there a way to hook something up and just see if a plant can react if there's a lot of activity.
Right.
But see, again, though, it's hard because, again, determining how a plant spikes versus if, we are in a room versus if there is some kind of spirit. But, again, there's so many things. Like, it's just crazy. It does. It opens up to a whole new world of everything, not just research or, there's so many things. But
Hear that, Jen? No more salads.
yeah. They're going to I'm just going.
I can't eat salad when I'm pregnant anyway.
Why?
Why?
You can't have bagged lettuce because it could have listeria.
So grow your own lettuce.
I was going to say.
You're in Salem County. Just pick some lettuce.
Yeah. I was going to say, what did they all do? What did they do back in the day when they grew plants and ate grass? Did they say we can't do it?
No, you can.
We could
you
get
can
lost.
have a salad. It just can't be bagged. Same thing with lunch meat. You can't have lunch meat because it has too much high risk of listeria.
See, you know what? And this is what I'm going to do. Like you were talking about, you have like vegan and stuff where they say no meat. I'm going to start something, no eating plants. Just meat only, not because of a diet, because plants are living things. If they can do it without meat.
Called the keto diet.
Well, yeah, that too. But yeah, because all I'm going to, and the advertiser's going to be is every time someone's taking a bite of any kind of lettuce or anything, you're going to hear, no, please.
Put me down.
Put me down, and it's just like, yeah. At least when you're eating a cow, you don't hear,
All right, so
but yeah. Definitely interesting topic.
We're going to start winding down here, but I wanted to mention a couple things before we wrap up for the evening. On December 3rd, you're going to have, finally, after we had to postpone his appearance here a few weeks ago, we're going to have Mario Cerrito, filmmaker extraordinaire. He's going to be on to talk about his latest film, Human Hibachi.
Oh, man,
that was released back.
I have to ask you, what did you think?
Of the movie?
Yeah.
Oh, it's wild.
It is. I watched it, and
it's
you're
wild.
right. It is. You definitely have to be ready to watch it. Let's just say.
It's one of those movies. He said the whole time it was a cult movie. It was going to have a cult following. It's not a mainstream type of movie you could release in theaters. Mm-hmm. And it's true.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah.
But, that's back in the day, they said that about Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right.
They said that about Night of the Living Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Those movies were cutting edge in that way back then.
And it's like I said before, it's crazy. Like Mario and his wife, like nicest people in the world, like definitely will do anything for you. And to just watch, even his other movies, just to watch something like this and know that it came from his mind, you're like, what kind of psychopath am I really friends with here? But no, seriously, if you can get into that kind of thing, definitely.
And he's got some good things working going forward. He has his new project called House in the Pines. That's going to be shot next year.
Gotcha, right.
I actually got to read the screenplay for that.
Did you? Oh, okay.
That is going to be something special.
Awesome.
That is going to be something that is a mainstream type film.
Oh, I'm sure. Well, like you said, any day now, his time, like hitting it big. I mean, he's already getting it big, but like he's definitely on his way.
He's got. I don't know the names of the people he has working on it, but he has some big name people that were working on well-known horror franchises like I think the what's the Freddy Nightmare on Elm Street.
Yeah.
He's got a music coordinator that won Oscars.
Nice.
Like he's got people that are working on this that are well-known and respected in Hollywood.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, he's definitely he's already making a big name for it, but he's definitely well on his way. I mean, he's great, not just saying it as he's a friend of ours, but he's definitely, he's creative and can turn with what little bit that he can get with making a movie, can turn it into something. It's not some cheap B-rated thing you would expect. Like, he can really turn something from nothing into something.
So Human Hibachi's out now. Human Hibachi.
I heard the photographer for that was a real hoe.
Okay.
That was Jen.
I know. Yeah.
I'm the hoe.
If you didn't know.
Yeah.
So that was that's out there now. Again, you can go to humanhibachi.com and you can still rent that online. He does have a deal in place now to do streaming with a company. I didn't prepare for this part of the conversation here, but he has a streaming deal set up.
Good deal. Yeah.
What we've posted on social media. I can't remember the name of the it's like sleaze bag, something like that.
You would expect.
Some
that
kind
line.
of weird name.
Especially,
for,
when you get
they
banned.
do like cult movies.
Yeah, when you get banned from Amazon like
Yeah.
he did, but
yeah.
yeah.
And the other thing is, I'm not sure exactly when the date we're going to have him on because I'm still waiting to get his latest book. But Barry Strom is going to be back on very soon. Barry wrote a book about the channeling the life of Jesus Christ again.
Mm-hmm.
He went back to the well again, to the religious aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually has a podcast out there now.
Yeah.
Called Channeling History, which is kind of interesting. The thing he did on our show where he I think he did what he did Neil Armstrong.
He did Neil.
Right?
Yeah, I first name that came into my head. He did like Neil Armstrong or something like that briefly last time he was on.
So the premise of this show is he picks a different historical figure every week.
Because he's on YouTube with it too. Like
Yeah.
he's done like I've seen like Michael Jackson, a lot of people. Like if you just search him on YouTube, he's done a lot.
So if you go to look for Channeling History, that's his show. So I told him I'd mention that, and we'll have him on again in a few weeks when I get a chance to read through the book, and we'll do another interview with Barry.
And it's already Thanksgiving next weekend. Then after that, we have like 3 shows, and then it's Christmas already, and it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah, so that's a good point. So next week is Thanksgiving, so I'm not sure. I don't think we're gonna be doing a show on Thanksgiving. So we will do the next show the week after, which I believe is the show with Mario.
With Mario, the 3rd. Yep. Yeah.
So that'll be the 3rd, and then we'll roll towards Christmas, and we'll do some Christmassy kind of things.
Yeah.
Some holiday-ish kind of things.
I'll wear a Santa hat and no shirt.
Oh, I can't wait.
And then 2 weeks after that, baby Noah will be here.
Well, and I don't want to let the cat out of the bag here, Jim. But you and I talked about a little project we were going to do with regard to your pending newborn.
I hope it's not be live streaming in the delivery room because I just don't want to be part of that.
I was on Toxic Radio's
live stream
pay-per-view.
Yeah. Jesus.
Mike's gonna be my coach, my birthday.
I was gonna say people would be paying Mike not to do that and be like, "Here, do not."
I'll bite off the umbilical cord.
Oh.
Yes.
And there we went.
Be like Coneheads. Do you want to cut the cord? He's like,
There's always a part in every show where I know enough's enough, and that was it right there.
Why is Mike always involved in something like that?
That was it.
You got to draw the line. You always got to cross that line, Mike. Jeez.
But anyway, Jen, we will we'll discuss that, and hopefully we'll get that set up for sometime in December too, before the birth. All right, before the birth. So interesting night.
Yeah, definitely something to think about.
When you go out there and you stroll through the world, just keep in mind what you say and what you do and what you think around the plants because they are listening.
Hey, it kind of reminds you of the movie War of the Worlds and things like that, like with Tom Cruise and stuff. I feel like if there's any kind of destruction to happen, it's going to be plant life just saying, you know what, forget you humans, we're going to release some toxin and kill you all off, It's like, it's crazy, so. Which, one more thing before we sign off, I mentioned to Rick, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, I found a War of the Worlds movie called, oh my God, why am I forgetting it? Something New Jersey. Remember that text you, that War of the Worlds movie? I just found it, and it's based off of a town not far from
Grover's Mills.
Yeah, from Grover's Mill, where it happened, and it takes place back when they broadcasted when he broadcasted the War of the Worlds originally, and this town was like 2 hours away from Grover's Mill, and they heard the broadcast, and it's based on a true story. A small town, they were preparing for the Martians to come in there, and they said. They hid the children in a schoolhouse, and the whole town made a line saying, all right, they're going to be here by 4 a.m. We're going to fight to the end. Only to find out when 4 a.m. came, nothing happened. But, it was...
Did they shoot up a water tower or something?
Something like that, yeah. I forget what the heck.
They saw the water tower and,
They saw it was, they shot it up and everything.
Shot up the water tower.
Come to find out, here it is. It's called Brave New Jersey. Yeah, it's called Brave New Jersey, and I think it's on Hulu, and I don't think it's on Netflix, but Hulu, I found it and I watched it, and it's not that old of a movie, but it's funny and interesting.
Cool.
And it's again based on a true story of a town thinking, well, they heard it, thinking they were on their way and they were going to fight to the death. So
all right, so that's gonna wrap us up for the evening. Again, we are on social media. Don't forget that. Go to Facebook and find us on Facebook at Paradelphia on Twitter.
Oh, the socials.
The socials. So we'll and of course follow Toxic Radio. What do you, Mike? You're at Toxic Radio. Is that how it goes?
Am I still on?
You're on.
At Toxic Radio Live. And if you want to follow me for more fun antics like what I did at the end of the show, at Toxic Spunk.
Like what you did at the end of the show. What, you get nude or something? It's
I
a
mean, you
Paradelphia
can't see
after
me.
show?
I'm not on the camera.
He's behind the curtain.
Yeah,
you don't know if I'm wearing pants or not.
He's like the wizard. Or the wizard.
Something like that. It's the every show that's on Toxic, he does a post show in his underwear.
After you all leave, it's Mike time.
Oh, boy.
The Mike show.
The Mike
All
show.
right, well, then we
Mike
got 5 minutes to get the hell out.
Mike on Mike. Yeah.
All right, so that's going to wrap it up for the evening. So for Jenna B, for Dougie Doug.
Yep.
Thank you for Justin, who's doing our audio this time. And
He's
Mr.
the
Mike.
quiet one no one knows about.
Mr. Mike behind the scenes. I am Rick. We are Paradelphia, and we are out of here.
Yep.